We talked about fields before, but we didn't talk about field types. Field types will help us supply additional context for relationships between the information and the nodes that those fields are already providing some context for. They can help us validate information that we put in so that we get the right kind of information into Tana. And they will help us access particular semantic things in searches like greater than or less than. Certain types of fields will allow you to look for information in different ways. And so this will allow you to access that. The mechanics of field types, there are a variety of different types. Here they are, as of right now in early February of 2025. Plain, options from SuperTag, date, number, Tana user, URL, email, and checkbox. You access field types in the field configuration. So if you, this little icon to the left of a field definition, if you click it, it'll open the field configuration, and all of those types you see listed there are available here. Okay, so let's talk about them a little bit. I think a few of them are self-explanatory. Number allows any real number, positive or negative, integer or decimal. Date will allow you to choose a date. We'll talk about them a little bit more in the next lesson. URL and email will validate those particular kinds of information. There's no hard force or anything like that. It's not going to, give you a ding and not let you enter information, but you'll have a little indicator that it's not a URL or an email. Checkbox is simply a yes, no, checked, unchecked binary sort of state. Tana user is almost certainly going to be you unless you are in a multiplayer workspace where it might not always be you. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. Plain fields will just allow you to put any content in them at all. Text, audio, image, anything that's valid in Tana can be put into a plain field. But it doesn't provide any additional context or validation. I use that for, names of people or things like that I'm not going to validate. Longer text, multimedia content, that will allow you to set that up. And the little node looks like this, just a little cursor in the box there. Options fields allow you to specify possible field values. You can list them directly. You can create a query to determine them, or you can auto-collect values over time. Now, if you're using options, be sure to uncheck that if you only want to use your predetermined options. So if I want to say that author, is an example here, I want to say, any predetermined options, I could say Charles Dickens and James Jones. I can predetermine them here. I could allow them to auto-collect, and you see these have already auto-collected quite a bit, but here's the problem with auto-collect is Herman Wouk and Herman Wouk and Herman Wouk are three different Herman Wokes. So that's why generally you don't want to, collect them that way necessarily. I turn them off. And you can also have sources of options. Now, in this case, it's author, but let's just say, for example, that I wanted to include any book or any article. I could create a query here that would, it looks like that one doesn't work, but I could create a query from the search node that looked for both books and articles, or rather books or articles. And then that could be the values available to this options. So a lot of different possibilities here when you're doing that. Options from SuperTag allow you to just specify the SuperTag that you want this to be the option. So if I know I'm in an author field, but if I said I wanted authors to allow me to choose books, you wouldn't do that. You'd say you'd have a super tag for author. But if I wanted to, for whatever reason to do this, we're actually going to build a super tag for author a bit down the road here in a future video. But the idea here is now this field would have anything as an option that's tag book would be an option for this field. And then there are some certain auto initialize things where you can choose, a particular information that you would like to populate there in advance. And especially if you have a date super tag like this one, you can say you want it to specify to a current date, or if it's on the current day, a day node, you might want it to be to the date that's on the day node, whether that's today or whatever day that might be. So as you're getting into these field types, what I'd like you to do, I don't know why Tana's jumping out on me a couple times there. So we get further into these field types, you get into these exercises here. I'd like you to go back to some of the fields that we created before and specify their types. Like scheduled on should be a date type field. And if you want, you can auto-initialize that to current date. Here's what I said. It was a future video. It's going to be now. I'm going to have you create that author super tag and then change the author field to an options from super tag, so that it can then be looking for instances of author rather than having that sort of thing where we were chaotically choosing a bunch of different Herman Woukes. That wouldn't have happened, by the way, if you were auto collecting and I had it set to an options type before. It was just a plain field before, and that's why each of those were different. If it had been set to collect options and collected these options before, it would have pre-populated those correctly. And then I'd like you to go into your project super tag and add a project status field with an options type field and turn off auto collect and set the couple of values here to predetermine options. But that'll give you some feel for how to use field types. You might want to hop into our free community and attend one of the events if you want to get some, inspiration on other ways you might make use of that, but that's how they work and what they are.